Okay, I've just been given my controlled assessment. My first one is the descriptive writing, and I'm going to be describing the scene at a fun fair. I've got 1 hour to complete this, and it's got to be at least 2 sides of A4 if I'm handwriting, or about 600 to 1,000 words if I'm typing. And I've got the advice, write a description, not a story. So it has to be a description. I can't start including characters and turn this into a story. So the first thing I'm going to do is write down my task so I remember it. Describe the scene at a fun fair. The next thing I need to know is what will I actually be assessed on here. So I've got the official marking criteria here, and I'm going to be assessed on my content and organisation, so that's what I write, and that's 14 marks. And I'm going to be assessed on my sentence structure, punctuation and spelling, which is 6 marks. So a significant chunk of marks for the technical accuracy and the majority of the marks for the content and organisation, what I actually write. I'm going to be aiming for band 4 here, so the highest of the bands for content and organisation, and that's what we should all aim for. So we think about what's the criteria asking for here. The first one says that content is well judged, sustained and pertinent, firmly engaging the reader's interest. So I'm going to put that into my own words. Relevant content, so it all relates to a fun fair, and it needs to be interesting, so which is interesting for the reader. So I need to be not doing boring writing, it needs to be interesting. We're going to look at how we're going to make it interesting in a minute. The next criteria, the writing is well crafted in an appropriate form with distinctive structural or stylistic features. So I need to think about how I'm putting my sentences together, how I'm crafting my paragraphs. Those structural or stylistic features mean that each paragraph must follow on from a previous one, and they should fit together well. And those stylistic features refers to the descriptive devices I'm going to use. So we'll look at those in a minute, but I'll just write use descriptive techniques or devices. Looking at the third one, that's quite straightforward. Paragraphs are effectively varied in length and structure to control detail and progression. So again, that's sort of overlapping with the previous one. Each paragraph must follow on from the previous one, and they should fit together well. They should create a sort of sense of flow as each one goes into the next one. Okay, for this criteria, there is a sophisticated organisation of detailed content within and between paragraphs. So I need to show that I have thought about and planned the order in which I describe each part of the scene, and there is a beginning and a conclusion. So it has a definite sense of where the scene begins, it sort of brings the reader into the scene, and at the end we have a sort of a feeling that we've concluded and we're kind of leaving the scene. And then the last of these criteria in band 4 is I should include a wide range of appropriate, ambitious vocabulary and use that to create effect or convey precise meaning. So essentially I'm using well chosen and unusual words perhaps, or not just the common words, but maybe something a bit more specific, a bit more fancy words. So actually we could even put fancy words there. Alright, moving on to the spelling, punctuation and grammar part of the mark criteria. So band 4 again, appropriate and effective variation of sentence structures is the first one of those. So use a range of sentence structures. So I don't want to be using the same sentence types over and over again. I want to mix it up using commas, using those embedded clauses we covered a couple of weeks ago. The second criteria almost repeats the first one. There is sophisticated use of simple, compound and complex sentences to achieve particular effects. So I can add to that, use sentences to add suspense or tension, and to engage the reader. So I'm playing around with the pace, making it maybe faster in some places, slower in others. So I'm really showing I'm controlling my sentence use. We then need to use accurate punctuation and perhaps more ambitious punctuation, such as semicolons. And also using commas correctly. That's going to be what will really make the difference between me getting band 4 on this and getting band 3, is using those commas accurately. Similarly, accurate spelling for all words. And tense changes are used confidently and purposefully is the last criteria there. So I'm either sticking to the same tense, either past or present. It's sort of up to you which one you do. Past is usually easier to work with, but you may prefer present. Just don't switch between them unless you're doing it deliberately. So I would suggest probably just sticking to past, because that's the easiest one, so everything's already happened. So now I know what criteria I'm working towards. I've put them into my own words so I understand them. So I've got a bit of an idea of how I'm going to put this together. I'm going to use my relevant content, so I mustn't go off topic. Each paragraph needs to follow the previous one, and I've carefully thought about the order in which my paragraphs will go to give a beginning, a conclusion, and a sort of middle section. I'm using well-chosen words, so I'm really thinking about each descriptive word I'm using. I'm mixing up my sentence structures and using them deliberately to add suspense or tension or to really focus on a detail. I'm being careful of my punctuation and trying to use perhaps semicolons, apostrophes, using it all correctly and using a variety there. I'm going to spell all my fancy words correctly, and I'm going to stick to a single tense.